Hello, I'm back again for what hopefully will be the final disk that I'm preparing, which demonstrates how I update and put together deck system. And on this disk, I'm going to cover the update materials that require programming. And basically, they involve the various computation programs and or updates to the ADA mounts as they're changed. And it's a little bit different with regard to each one, so I'll take them separately. The first one is the CalWorks computation. When the CalWorks numbers change, this is what needs to happen. You first need to go to the document that's the form for the computation, which is in CWP51 templates forms, and it's called, that particular document is called I think I've changed this one for a little while. It's called CWComp. You open the document and we'll get a blank screen, and we'll go to Alt F11, which gives us our Visual Basic screen. And you will notice if we scroll down, well, first of all, there's a form here, which is basically the form that is completed by the judge. And then there's these modules, and based on the date that the module puts in, and I'm going to let you figure out how that reference goes, it then makes reference to a particular time. If the year is greater than this and less than this, YR being a variable, then open this particular document. And these documents actually have the various amounts, and they'll get input into the form. And basically, then what happens is, how do you get this number? Well, look at this. If I just copy this particular number, 39994, and then I open up Excel, the number represents a date. Where's my Excel? Right here. The number represents a date, and it basically is totaled all the dates since, it's the total date since January 1st, 2000, 1900. So if I paste that number in there, then I get 39,994. But watch this. If I format the cell by right-clicking the mouse and change it from general to date, I get 6/30/2009. So basically, if I go back to the code, and I'm saying if the date is greater than June 30th, 2009, then, and it's less than, and I just put in a huge number, then open up this particular file, A0907, for input. And so that's in info. So let's just look at that file for a second. I'm going to go direct to my shortcut to info. And I'll search for it. And there you see it, A0907 table. I just open it to edit, and you see it'll have all the 8 amounts. This will be for 1 person, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And it will be the MBSAC MAP region. I think the first 3 numbers are the region 1 numbers, I believe, and then I think it's MAP for exempt and then non-exempt. So it starts with MBSAC, MAP, exempt, non-exempt, and then the second set are I'm just going by memory here. I think they're region 2 numbers. But in any event, all you have to do is check the table of 8 amounts to do it. But when you get an update, you need to, the new file needs a new file like this, in this format, with commas separating the various numbers, need to be created that follows this format and represents the update. Hopefully that's clear. And so then what you need to do is add a new line here that makes reference to your new file that's going to have these numbers. And that's really all that you have to do. Everything else, that's the only change in programming you have to make. Well, how do you get to how do you find out what number to put in? Well, that's simple. You just do the reverse of what we did in Excel. If I put a date down, let's say the effective date of the new regs would be, the new MBSAC, let's say, would be July 1st, 2010. Well, then I'm going to want the date for June 30th, 2010. So I'll put in 6/30/2010 as a date. Then I'll highlight it. I'll right-click the mouse. I'll click Format Cells, and I'll change Date to General. And lo and behold, I get a number. And so I just use that number in my code. So I'm using Excel basically to get that. So basically, to update the CalWorks computation program, that's all you need to do is to add a line, create a file, a new file with the new 8 amounts, and then add a line like this to have the computation program reference that line. And that's all you need to do. And the form. However, I do have an MBSAC information and MAP information in the parareg groups right here. For example, if I go to CalWorks and I go to income budgeting and MAP amounts and MBSAC amounts, then that has to take into account the new information, and I'll show you what I need to do that. On this one, I need to go to Deck System, and I'll go to the global template file, which is open, and open that, or actually I can do it from the startup directory. Do it that way. It's that file you have to change. Again, go to the Visual Basic screen. And I need to go to Forms, and you will notice that there is an MBSAC comp needs to happen is that right now it's set for the current one being checkbox 24, and the oldest one here is checkbox 9. What I would do when I update it is get rid of, actually what I would probably do is move checkbox 9 up to here, move everything else down, in other words rearrange all this, move current back down to here and put 7/09 to 6/10, for example. Then rename checkbox 9 here to be current. Then I'll show you what you do. You go to the code behind this form, which is just right click the mouse, code, and what you want to do is on checkbox on checkbox 24, which was the current one, you would want to then modify this to say effective July 21st, July 2009 through June 2010, and make that change. And then you would want to take the one that we are changing, which was checkbox 9, I believe, and then change the file on that to the new file that you created, and then change this to say effective July 2009. So that's what you would do there, and you basically would follow the same procedure for this other form, MAP-Comp, exact same procedure. So hopefully that makes sense. And that's what so that's basically the process for updating the CalWORKS computation matters that are in the part of DEC system that is affected by changes in CalWORKS computation levels or aid levels. Those are the steps to update the system for those changes. Now, for food stamps, I actually have a step for creating a new food stamp table because our tables look a little different than the ones that are in the handbook, the printed out ones. I've made them shorter, as you've probably noticed over the years, and I have a macro that does that, and I don't have the file with that macro right with me at the moment, so I'm going to save that step till the end of the process and describe it then. But turning to the regular computation program, which also needs to be updated, you need to do this, and that is go to, again, the form directory, and this particular document is called fscomp. And you're also going to need to make changes to AE-FSComp. But I'll show you, they're basically the same change. The AE-FSComp is for equitable estoppel. You go to, again, to Visual Basic, and this time you need to look at the main code to the program, which actually we did before. And you notice you'll get, if you scroll down, you'll get to all these numbers. Again, they represent the various dates. Now I got to tell you something. This program is sort of big, so if you, as you add, again, you follow the same procedure for finding the date number, and you notice all you need to do is plug in the household size, the maximum gross income, maximum net income amount, and then the Thrifty Food Plan, which is what a one-person household gets with no income. You just take those numbers and you plug them in to the, you'll add something like this. You'll add like this, create a new one, change the numbers to reflect the current dates. But as you do that, you're going to want to delete the one at the top, because if you create too many of these, you'll get an error because the program's too big. So hopefully that's self-explanatory as to the changes you make. You also need to do the same thing down here with the standard deduction and the maximum shelter cost. You need to make those changes based on the household size. It'll be, it's self-explanatory based on what the update says in the All-County letter, which comes out either late August or early September every year. So that is how you do that. But again, I should explain something too. You'll notice that it says HHX. That's an array, what we call an array variable, and it relates to the fact that there are actually there are 6 months now in the food stamp computation that's done as part of it, and the same thing applied to the CalWORKS computation for that matter. For your purposes of updating, all you have to do is follow this pattern. Keep the X in parentheses in there, but I'm going to show you something in a minute. When you go to make the corresponding change in the PATS.m and the other global templates, what you need to do to make those changes, you go to that, and we go to Forms again, and we go to FS Comp, and we then go to the code. We change these the same way I described before, okay? And then we go to code behind them, and you'll notice that there's no HHX. So you basically use the same code that is in the computation program, but you take out the X. And you do that for this particular one, as well as this one, which is food stamp. The one is for, if I remember, for a public assistance household, and this one's for the ordinary. That's my recollection as to why there's 2 of them. So you got to make both those changes. Okay, that takes care of the food stamp process. I think that's everything. Yep. Again, on the computation programs, there's regular computation program, and I should have put equitable estoppel, because what it does is it computes the equitable estoppel injury. If you're familiar with computation programs, you know what they do. Okay, finally, the last update is the Medi-Cal computation program, and that is actually relatively an easy update. compared to the other two. You just need to know where to do it. So you go to the forms, and this one's MC Comp. Open it. Then Alt 11 again to get to the thing, and we want to go to the main module here, which is under MC Comp here, the main module. And what you want to do is move down to here's where I have the dates, and depending on what date it is, the latest one is PV2010. So I should explain that these numbers here reflect the various I need to pause for a second. Basically, you will notice up here I have listed the various limits. The first one is basically the maintenance need, and the second one is the 1931B app limit. The third one is the recipient limit, and basically I do the updates by basically having this down here again with the same kind of date thing, and notice that the most latest one, for example, is the ones that just took the changes that just took effect. And so I go to PV 2001 to PV 2010. If I find that, it gets down to here, and you notice I just input the latest amounts, and that includes these include the amounts that are allowed for in the various computations. They should be self-explanatory. This is the new this first one is the new federal poverty level, and the next one is any change that might have been made in the recipient limit for 1931B. I don't even bother to change the amount that's used for the maintenance need, because that doesn't change. These have to do, I believe, with what is the allowances that occur in the SNEED computations. So anyway, hopefully that is that explains that. That's really the only change that you need to make on the Medi-Cal program. Otherwise, unless there's a change to the program itself, the computation should work smoothly. You just need to follow this format, put in the new dates. Obviously, when 2011 comes around, you're going to have if it's greater than this and less than this, and then 2011 will be if it's greater than such and such. So